My name is Natalie Webb, and if there's one thing nobody tells you about betrayal, it's this. The second time hurts differently. The first time is fire. The second time is ice. The first time destroys you all at once, loud and obvious and humiliating. The second time slips into your house wearing a familiar face and asks you to feel sorry for it. 2 years ago, I thought I had survived the worst thing Logan Webb could ever do to me. I was wrong, because cheating breaks your trust. But watching someone weaponize your compassion, that changes the way you see human nature. It was a Monday night, 9:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I had just kicked off my heels, poured myself a glass of wine, and was standing barefoot in my kitchen, trying to decide whether I had enough energy to answer one last work email. Then the doorbell rang, late enough to be annoying, late enough to be wrong. I wasn't expecting anyone. I walked to the front door, already irritated, already rehearsing the look I was about to give whichever delivery driver had the wrong address again. And then I opened it, and there he was, Logan. My ex-boyfriend, the man who had detonated my life and walked away from the fire like he hadn't been the one holding the match. For a second, I honestly didn't recognize him. He looked hollow, thinner than I'd ever seen him. His face was gaunt, his skin pale in that papery, unhealthy way that makes your chest tighten before your brain catches up. Dark shadows bruised the skin under his eyes. His hair looked unwashed, pulled back carelessly like he didn't have the strength to care anymore. He wore gray sweatpants, an oversized hoodie, and sneakers that looked like they'd been dragged through a month of bad days. He looked like a man already halfway gone, and maybe that was why I didn't slam the door in his face. "Natalie," he said softly. His voice was weak, hoarse, almost unrecognizable, too. "I need to talk to you. Please, it's important." Every nerve in my body whispered the same thing. No. Close the door. Don't let him back into your life. Don't let him back into your air. Because 2 years earlier, Logan hadn't just broken my heart. He had humiliated me with methodical cruelty. We had been together for 7 years. 7. Long enough to build habits that feel like fate. Long enough to know how the other person takes their coffee, what silence means, which mood is real and which one is just exhaustion. Long enough to mistake routine for permanence. I had loved him in that dangerous adult way, fully, practically, without performance. Not the kind of love people post about. The kind that pays bills on time. The kind that remembers prescriptions and deadlines. The kind that assumes loyalty because loyalty has never been discussed like it's optional. And all that time, while I was building a future with him, Logan had been sleeping with his ex-girlfriend. 8 months. 8 months of lies, layered neatly over ordinary life. 8 months in my bed while I traveled for work. I found out because she left an earring behind. One small gold hoop on my nightstand. That was all it took. One stupid, glittering thing catching the morning light, like a wink from hell. The breakup wasn't dramatic at first. That was the worst part. I remember standing there holding that earring, while Logan kept trying to talk, like there was still a version of the morning that could be fixed, with the right tone, the right apology, the right lie. Then I said her name, and the room changed. He didn't deny it. That would have almost been kinder. He just sat down, buried his face in his hands, and said, "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." As if the tragedy was the discovery, not the betrayal. The months after that were vicious. The house was in my name. The savings were mine. Most of what we had built had come from years of me working like my life depended on it, while he moved through the world with that easy confidence some people mistake for charm. He wanted more than the law would give him. A lot more. And when he realized he wasn't going to get it, he looked at me across a conference table in my attorney's office and said, very quietly, "You'll regret this. One day you'll realize this isn't over." Then he disappeared. No calls, no texts, no drunk apologies at midnight, nothing. For 2 years, Logan Webb became a ghost. And I did what women always do after surviving men who mistake our love for weakness. I rebuilt. I worked. I learned how to sleep diagonally again. I dated a little, Not seriously. Enough to prove to myself I wasn't broken. Enough to remind myself that attraction and trust are not the same thing. And most importantly, I learned peace. Not joy exactly. Not yet, but peace.
A clean house. A predictable life.
No apologies rotting in my inbox. No manipulation disguised as vulnerability. And now, here he was on my doorstep, looking like death had personally delivered him. "Natalie," he said again, and there was something in his face that made me hesitate. Not love.
Definitely not love.
But memory. Because no matter how badly someone hurts you, there is always a dangerous second where your body remembers them before your mind does. "You have 5 minutes," I said. He nodded too quickly, like he hadn't expected even that much. When he stepped inside, he moved slowly, one hand brushing the wall for balance. It was convincing. Painfully convincing. I hated that I noticed. I hated that some buried, involuntary part of me felt sorry for him. He sat on the couch like it hurt to lower himself. Then he pulled a manila folder from inside the pocket of his hoodie and held it with both hands. "I have cancer," he said. The room went still. Not quiet. Still. The kind of stillness that feels unnatural. Like the air itself is listening. I stared at him. "What?" He swallowed hard, eyes glassy. "Stage 4. Stomach cancer. It spread faster than they thought it would." For a second, I just looked at him. And I wish I could tell you I knew immediately that it was a lie. I wish I could tell you some instinct saved me. But the truth is uglier than that. The truth is that grief, even someone else's, even someone you hate, has gravity. It pulls on you. It bends judgment. He opened the folder and handed me the papers.
Medical records.
Test results. Hospital letterhead. Doctor signatures.
Lab work.
Stage 4 gastric carcinoma. Everything looked real. Official stamps. Dense medical terminology. Dates. Treatment notes. I felt my throat tighten. "I've been doing chemotherapy for 3 months," he said quietly. "It's not working. They told me to get my affairs in order." There it was, that sentence. The sentence meant to rearrange the moral architecture of the room. Get my affairs in order. A line no decent person knows how to answer coldly. I looked up at him. He was already crying. Real tears. Or what looked exactly like them. "I know I'm the last person who deserves your kindness," he said. "I know what I did to you. I know I ruined everything. But I don't have anyone, Natalie." He took a shaky breath. "My parents stopped speaking to me after the breakup. My sister won't answer my calls. I've been in a studio apartment going to treatments alone. I had to quit my job. I can't keep up with the medical bills anymore. I'm broke.
Alone.
Dying." He knew exactly which words to choose. He always had. "What do you want from me?" I asked. His eyes lifted to mine, wet and exhausted. "A place to stay," he whispered. "Just for a little while. I can't afford rent anymore. I don't want to die in some apartment by myself." That should have been the moment I said no. That should have been the moment I remembered every lie, every humiliation, every night I spent staring at a ceiling, wondering how someone could keep kissing you with another woman's perfume still on his skin. But mercy is rarely logical, and guilt has a way of appearing even when you have done nothing wrong. He looked terrible. The paperwork looked real. And there is a specific kind of cruelty in turning away someone who appears to be dying, even if that someone once shattered you. So I did what I would later replay in my head 1,000 times. I hesitated. Then I said, 2 weeks, guest room, that's it. His face collapsed with relief so intense it almost made me look away. "Thank you," he whispered. Then more emotionally, "Thank you, Natalie. Seriously, thank you." He reached for my hand. I almost pulled away. Almost. Instead, I let him touch my fingers for one brief second before stepping back and telling him I'd get fresh sheets. That should have been a detail that bothered me first. How easily he seemed to slip into gratitude. How quickly the desperation softened once he'd gotten exactly what he wanted. But I was too busy trying not to feel monstrous. He moved in that same night. One suitcase. That was all. One black suitcase with a broken zipper and a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He stood in the guest room doorway while I pointed out where the towels were, where the bathroom light stuck sometimes, which cabinet had medicine in it. It felt surreal, like my house had been rewritten around me while I wasn't looking. "Good night," I said flatly. "Good night," he said. Then, after a pause, "I know I don't deserve this." I didn't answer. I closed. That first night, I barely slept. Every sound made me open my eyes. Every floorboard creak tightened something in my chest. It wasn't fear exactly. It was violation. Not because he had touched me, because his presence touched everything. The walls, the silence, the version of myself I'd fought hard to become. By morning, I was exhausted and angry at myself for feeling guilty on top of it. Day 1 passed quietly. He stayed in the guest room most of the day. Said treatment had worn him out. I worked from home with my office door shut and tried not to think about the fact that Logan Webb was breathing under my roof again. Day 2. I came downstairs after a long call and smelled lasagna, my favorite. I stopped halfway into the kitchen. He was standing at the stove in one of my aprons. For one disorienting second, it looked like an old life. That was what made it so disturbing. "I wanted to do something nice," he said when he saw me, "to thank you." I stared at the bubbling pan on the counter. "You cooked?" He gave me a faint smile. "I remember what you like." Of course he did. That was the problem. Manipulators always remember what matters. We ate together that night at my kitchen table, and the entire meal felt like emotional trespassing. He asked about work, asked whether I still took my coffee too strong, asked if I still hated driving downtown in the rain. Normal questions, harmless on their face. But there was something unnerving about how carefully normal he was trying to make it feel. Almost pleasant, almost tender. Like he was trying to smooth the past over with familiar details, until it became something soft enough to step on. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling and asked myself a question I didn't want to ask. Why did this feel less like helping someone die, and more like letting someone rehearse being part of my life again? Day 3. I woke up around 2 in the morning thirsty and went downstairs for water. As I passed the guest room, I noticed his door was cracked open and the light was on. I slowed. He was sitting up in bed, phone in hand, smiling. Not tired, not in pain. Smiling. The kind of private, quick smile people wear when they're texting someone who makes them feel certain of themselves. Then he looked up and saw me, and instantly, the smile vanished. He locked the phone so fast, it was almost violent. "Can't sleep?" I asked. He gave a weak little shrug. "The pain keeps me up." The answer came too fast, too polished, and maybe it was unfair of me. Maybe grief and illness don't have to look tragic every second. But something in my stomach turned, because he hadn't looked like a dying man caught in pain. He had looked like a man caught in pleasure. Day 4. I came home earlier than expected after a meeting got canceled. I stepped into my office to grab a file and froze. Logan was sitting at my computer. He jumped so hard, he nearly knocked over the chair. "What are you doing?" "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "My laptop died. I needed to check my email, doctor appointments." His voice was soft, apologetic, thin, carefully thin. I stood there staring at him, every instinct sharpened. He stepped away from the desk too quickly, and I moved past him without speaking. The browser was still open. Not email, not hospital portals, real estate listings, Zillow. High-end properties in my area. Several tabs. Several. I felt something cold and precise slide down my spine. He must have noticed my expression because he said, "I was just distracted, looking at houses I'll never live in. Morbid curiosity, I guess." It was almost a joke, almost charming, almost. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time since he'd shown up at my door, compassion loosened its grip. Just a little. Not enough for certainty, but enough for suspicion. And once suspicion enters a house, it changes the temperature of every room. If there's one thing I've learned about intuition, it's this. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And if you ignore it long enough, it stops sounding like a warning and starts sounding like doubt. By day 5, I was already arguing with myself. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe trauma was making me see patterns where there were none. Maybe a dying man looking at houses online wasn't suspicious. It was just human. People facing the end sometimes fantasize about things they'll never have, right? That's what I told myself. That's what I wanted to believe. But something about Logan's behavior didn't sit right. Not emotionally, not logically. So that Friday night, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I told someone. Her name is Melissa Carter. She's been my closest friend for over a decade. The kind of woman who doesn't soften the truth just to make you feel better. The kind who listens quietly and then dismantles your denial piece by piece. We were sitting across from each other at a small bar downtown. I hadn't even touched my drink. I told her everything, from the moment Logan showed up, to the documents, to the cooking, to the late-night texting, to the real estate tabs. She didn't interrupt once, just watched me. And when I finished, she leaned back, crossed her arms, and said one sentence that made my stomach drop. "You let him move back into your house?" I exhaled slowly. "He has stage 4 cancer." Melissa didn't blink. "Have you seen that confirmed by an actual doctor? Or just papers he handed you?" "The documents look legitimate. Hospital letterhead, lab results, everything." "Papers can be faked, Natalie." Her tone wasn't dramatic. It was calm, which made it worse. I frowned. Why would he fake something like that? Melissa leaned forward slightly, eyes locked on mine. "Your house is worth what? Close to $1 million? 850, maybe 900? She nodded once. "That's why." The words landed heavier than I expected. I shook my head instinctively. That's insane, is it?" she said quietly. "Because from what you just told me, he's acting like someone studying his environment, not someone preparing to die." I didn't respond, because I couldn't. "Think about it," she continued. "He shows up looking like death, hands you convincing paperwork, tells you he's alone and broke, and suddenly he's inside your house." Her voice sharpened slightly. "Then he starts getting comfortable, cooking your favorite meals, using your computer, looking at property listings in your area." I swallowed. "And texting someone at 2 a.m. while smiling," she added. That detail echoed louder than the others. "He said the pain keeps him up." Melissa held my gaze. "Did he look like he was in pain?" I didn't answer, because no, he hadn't. He'd looked energized, alive. "That's not grief behavior," she said softly. "That's coordination." The word hit differently.
Coordination.
Not coincidence. Not coping.
Planning.
I felt my chest tighten. "You think this is some kind of scam?" Melissa didn't hesitate. "I think you're being set up." Silence stretched between us.
Heavy. Uncomfortable.
Real. "What do I do?" I asked finally. Her answer came immediately. "You verify it." "How?" "Hire someone who knows how to check this kind of thing. A private investigator. Confirm whether he's actually a patient at that hospital." I let out a breath. "That sounds extreme." She tilted her head. "Not as extreme as letting a man who betrayed you once re-enter your life under suspicious circumstances and potentially manipulate you again. That shut me up." "Look," she said more gently, "if he's telling the truth, then you'll feel like a terrible person for doubting him for about 5 minutes. And then you'll move on, knowing you did the right thing." "And if he's lying?" I asked. Her expression hardened. "Then you'll be very glad you checked." Saturday morning, day 6. I woke up with that conversation replaying in my head like a loop I couldn't turn off. By 9:15 a.m., I was sitting in my kitchen, staring at my phone. By 9:22, I made the call. "Fletcher Investigations." The voice on the other end was steady, professional. "I need to verify whether someone actually has cancer," I said. There was a brief pause. "Who's the subject?" "My ex-boyfriend." I gave him everything. Full name, date of birth, the hospital listed on the documents. Every detail Logan had handed me like a carefully wrapped lie. 48 hours, the investigator said. $2,500 up front. I'll pay it. I didn't hesitate, because by then, the whisper in my gut had turned into something louder, something colder, something I couldn't ignore anymore. That night, Logan knocked softly on my bedroom door. "Can we talk?" he asked. I hesitated for half a second before opening it. He looked worse, or maybe more intentionally worse. It was getting harder to tell. "What's going on?" I asked. He shifted his weight like it hurt. "The treatments are hitting me harder lately," he said quietly. "I've been thinking, I don't know if I can manage apartment hunting in a couple of weeks." There it was, the next step, carefully timed. "I might need a little longer," he added. "Maybe a month." 30 days. The number didn't mean anything to me yet, but something about it stuck. "You said 2 weeks," I replied. "I know," he said quickly. "And I'm so grateful, Natalie. I really am. I don't have the strength right now." He stepped closer, close enough that I could see every detail of his face, every hollowed shadow, every calculated vulnerability. "I don't have anyone else," he said again. The same line, same tone, same emotional key. I felt something shift inside me. Not softness,
Recognition.
he was repeating patterns. "Okay," I said slowly. "A month." Relief flooded his face instantly. "Too fast. Too clean." "Thank you," he said, reaching for me. He hugged me, and for the first time since he arrived, I didn't hug him back. Not really. My arms moved, but my body stayed distant, because something inside me had started pulling away. Sunday. Day 7. I left the house around 10 a.m. and went to the gym. 2 hours. That's how long I stayed. Long enough to clear my head, or try to. When I got back, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I walked upstairs, something already tightening in my chest, and then I saw it. My bedroom door was open. I never leave it open. Ever. I stepped inside slowly, and there he was, Logan, standing in front of my closet, looking up at the top shelf, exactly where I kept my important documents. Property deed. Insurance papers. Legal files. He spun around the second he heard me. Guilty didn't even begin to describe the look on his face. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice flat. "I was just," he stammered, "looking for a sweater. I got cold." "A sweater," I repeated. "My stuff is in storage," he added quickly. "I thought maybe you had something I could borrow." His eyes flicked toward the shelf again, just for a second. But it was enough, because he wasn't looking for sweaters. He was looking for leverage. "Next time, ask," I said. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "Of course," he said quickly. "Sorry. Brain fog from the meds." Another excuse. Another performance. But now, I was watching. Really watching. That night, after he went to bed, I took every document that mattered and locked it in a safe deposit box. No hesitation. No second guessing. Because whatever this was, it wasn't random anymore. Monday morning. Day 8. At exactly 11:03 a.m., my phone rang.
Unknown number.
I answered. "Natalie Webb?" "Yes." "This is Ron Fletcher. We need to meet in person." My stomach dropped instantly. "What did you find?" "Not over the phone," he said. "Can you meet today?" His tone was different now.
Urgent. Controlled.
But heavy. "Where?" I asked. "Coffee shop on Wilshire, 1 p.m. I'll be there." I arrived early, sat down, ordered coffee I didn't touch. At 12:58, he walked in. Mid-50s. Sharp eyes, thick folder under his arm. He didn't waste time. Sat down. Placed the folder on the table and looked directly at me. "Your ex-boyfriend does not have cancer." Everything inside me went still, just like that first night, but colder this time. Cleaner. "What?" I whispered. "He's never been a patient at that hospital," Ron continued. "No records, no treatments, nothing." I stared at him. "But the documents." "Forgeries," he said. "Good ones, but fake." He opened the folder and turned it toward me. Side-by-side comparisons. Logan's documents, real hospital documents. The differences were subtle, until you knew where to look. Then they were obvious. The signatures are wrong, Ron said. Formatting doesn't match official reports. A document specialist confirmed it. My hands started shaking. But he looks sick, Ron finished. I nodded slowly. Weight loss can be intentional. So can appearance. Pale skin, dark circles, none of that is hard to fake. He slid another document toward me, his actual medical records. I looked down. Routine physical, 3 months ago. Healthy. No abnormalities, no cancer, no treatment, nothing. The words blurred for a second. 3 months ago, Ron said quietly. He was perfectly fine. Exactly when he claimed chemo had started. I leaned back slowly. Air felt different, thinner,
Sharper.
There's more, Ron said. Of course there was. There's always more. He pulled out photographs, surveillance shots. Logan at a nail salon, at a grocery store, at a restaurant, laughing, relaxed, alive, not dying. Not even close. And this, Ron added, sliding over another set of pages, phone records, text transcripts. I read the name at the top. A woman. Ashley Matthews.
Real estate agent.
My pulse spiked. 47 calls between them in the last 2 weeks, Ron said. My eyes dropped to the messages. How long until you establish residency? She said a month. Maybe longer if I play it right. 30 days minimum. Then we start paperwork. What if she figures it out? She won't. Nobody questions cancer. Perfect cover. I read it again, then again. Each time slower. Each time worse. What paperwork? I asked, my voice barely steady. Ron leaned back. In this state, if someone lives in a property with the owner's permission for 30 consecutive days, they can begin to establish tenant rights. My stomach twisted. In some cases, he continued, if they can show financial contribution or claim a domestic relationship, things get complicated. We're not together, I said immediately. I know, but if he claims you reconciled, that you let him stay as a partner again, that you intended to support him, it creates legal gray areas. Gray areas. That's what he was aiming for, not truth.
Confusion. Leverage.
He could try to force a settlement, Ron said, or claim partial rights. It's not guaranteed to work, but it's enough to cause problems. Problems. That was a gentle word for it. He faked terminal cancer, I whispered, to get into your house. Ron said calmly, and try to take it. My hands were shaking now. Not from fear, from something else. Something harder.
Rage.
Cold, focused rage. What do I do? I asked. Ron didn't hesitate. You remove him. Today. There's a moment, right before everything changes, when the world feels unnaturally quiet. Not peaceful, not calm. Just waiting. That's what it felt like driving home, like the air itself knew what I was about to do. Every red light felt too long. Every second stretched thin with anticipation. Because by the time I turned onto my street, there was no confusion left. No doubt. No hesitation. Logan Webb wasn't a sick man looking for comfort. He was a liar who had walked back into my life with a script, and I had almost let him finish it. I parked, sat in the car for exactly 10 seconds, then grabbed the folder from the passenger seat. Every piece of evidence, every lie printed neatly on paper, every truth that was about to end whatever illusion he thought he was still maintaining. When I walked inside, the house smelled like chamomile tea. Soft. Calm. Normal. Logan was standing in the kitchen, back to me, pouring hot water into a mug. He turned when he heard the door and smiled, that same easy, familiar smile. Hey, he said, you're home early. I was thinking maybe we could order Thai tonight, like we used to. I set the folder down on the counter, hard. The sound cut through the room like a blade. We need to talk. His smile faltered, just slightly. About what? I looked at him. really looked at him. And for the first time since he stepped back into my life, I saw him clearly. Not as someone I used to love, not as someone who was dying, but as someone who had been performing. Cedars-Sinai Medical Center has no record of you, I said.
Silence. Immediate. Heavy.
What? He said, but it came out wrong. Too quick. Too thin. No appointments, I continued evenly. No treatments. No patient under your name. Nothing. His face went pale. Not the artificial kind.
Real.
I hired a private investigator, I said. The words landed like a hammer. I have your actual medical records. Physical, from 3 months ago. You're perfectly healthy. No cancer, no chemo, no treatments. His mouth opened.
Closed.
Opened again. Nothing came out. I stepped closer, sliding photographs across the counter. You were at a nail salon yesterday, grocery shopping, out to lunch with a real estate agent named Ashley Matthews. His hands started shaking, not from weakness, from exposure. I have your phone records, I said. Your texts, talking about establishing residency, about 30 days, about filing paperwork to claim my house. I watched his eyes as recognition set in, as realization spread, as the lie collapsed. Did you fake terminal cancer? I asked quietly. To move into my house and try to steal it from me? The silence that followed was different. Not defensive, not confused, just empty. Like he had reached the end of the script and didn't know what line came next. Then softly, yes. Just like that. No denial, no fight, just a quiet, devastating admission. I felt something inside me go completely still. Why? I asked. His jaw tightened. Because you took everything from me, Natalie, he said, the weakness gone from his voice now. Everything. There it was. The truth behind the performance. Raw.
Ugly. Unapologetic.
You cheated on me for 8 months, I said. You didn't lose everything. You lost what you weren't entitled to keep. I made a mistake, he snapped. 8 months is not a mistake, I said coldly. It's a pattern. His eyes flashed. I got $40,000, he said bitterly. You kept the house, the savings, the life we built. I kept what I earned, I replied, and I got nothing. So you faked cancer? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. It was already written across his face. How long? I asked. How long were you planning to keep this up? 30 days, he said after a moment. Of course, 30 days. The number that had been echoing in the background the entire time. Once I established residency, he continued, we could file a claim. Say we reconciled, that you agreed to take care of me, that we were living as partners again. We're not, I said flatly. You let me move in, he shot back. That's enough to muddy things. Muddy things. That was his goal. Confuse the line between truth and narrative until the law had to listen. The cancer story, I said slowly. Perfect cover, he said. No shame. No hesitation. Nobody questions cancer. The words hit harder than everything else. Because he was right. That's exactly why I had let him in. Whose idea was it? I asked. Ashley's, he said. She knew how to make it work. Found templates online. Helped me forge the documents. Said if I got back in, we could make a case. And she gets what? I asked. 10%. He said. Of course she did. I exhaled slowly, every piece falling into place. The weight loss? I asked. Crash diet, he said. 6 weeks. The way you look now? Stopped eating properly, no makeup, baggy clothes. Every detail calculated. Every weakness manufactured. And after 30 days, I pressed, what happens when you're supposed to be dying? He shrugged slightly. Miracle recovery. Experimental treatment. Something believable. Something believable. Like everything else, I stared at him, at the man I had once trusted with my entire future. You committed fraud, I said quietly. Forgery. Conspiracy. His eyes flickered. You going to call the cops? I should have. In that moment, I absolutely should have. But he leaned forward slightly, voice lowering. You won't, he said. Why not? I asked. Because of how it looks, he said simply. And for a split second, I hated how accurate that was. Woman kicks out dying ex-boyfriend, he continued. Even when the truth comes out, people will still wonder, still judge. He sat back, confidence returning. But we don't have to do that, he added. I felt my stomach turn. Do what? I asked. He looked at me, and then he smiled. I was thinking 200,000, he said. The words hung in the air, like poison. Half of what I should have gotten, he continued calmly. You pay me, I disappear. We both sign NDAs. Clean break. I stared at him, at the audacity, at the complete absence of remorse, at the man who had faked dying and was now trying to sell me my own peace. Something inside me snapped, not loudly, not violently, just completely. Get out, I said. His smile faded. Natalie, you have 30 minutes, I continued, pulling my phone from my pocket, to pack your things and get out of my house. Where am I supposed to go? He demanded. I don't care. He scoffed. Be reasonable. I hit record, held the phone up between us. Say it again, I said. He froze. You're recording this? He asked. Did you fake having cancer? I asked, my voice steady. He looked at the phone, at me, at the folder.
Calculating.
Then, yes, he said.
Clear. Undeniable.
I faked having cancer to get back into this house because you took everything, and I deserved better. I stopped recording, put the phone down, and met his eyes. Here's what's going to happen, I said quietly. You're going to pack your things. You're going to leave. And if you ever contact me again, if you try to file anything, say anything, twist this in any way, I will take everything I have to the police. His expression shifted. For the first time, real fear. You wouldn't, he said. Try me.
Silence.
Then he turned, walked upstairs, and just like that, the performance was over. I stood in the kitchen, listening to the sound of drawers opening, closing. Footsteps pacing. The same house that had felt invaded now felt clearer, like something toxic had finally been named. 28 minutes later, he came back down, suitcase in hand, same one he had arrived with. He stopped at the door, looked at me. This isn't over, he said. I didn't even blink. Yes, I replied. It is. He held my gaze for a second longer, then walked out. The door slammed hard enough to shake the frame, and just like that, he was gone. Again, but this time, on my terms. I didn't wait. I called a locksmith before his car even reached the end of the street. New locks by 6. Security cameras by 8.
Motion sensors. Alarm system.
Everything. Because I wasn't going to be caught off guard again. Not by him. Not by anyone. 3 days passed. No calls. No messages. Nothing. And for a moment, I thought it was over. I was wrong. Silence can be deceptive. Sometimes it means peace. Sometimes it means someone else is making the first move. 3 days after Logan left, Thursday afternoon, my phone rang.
Unknown number.
I almost ignored it. Almost. Hello? Is this Natalie Webb? Yes. This is Claire Donovan with the Louisiana Times. I'm working on a story about cancer fraud. My stomach dropped. I understand your ex-boyfriend, Logan Webb, recently returned claiming he was terminally ill and that you forced him out. Would you like to comment? For a second, I couldn't speak. He had done it first. Of course he had. He hadn't just tried to manipulate me privately. He was trying to control the narrative publicly. He contacted you? I asked. Yes, she said. He claims you abandoned him while he was dying, that you refused to help because of resentment from the breakup. I closed my eyes briefly. Same pattern. Different stage. He wasn't just lying anymore. He was performing for an audience. I have proof, I said calmly, that everything he told you is a lie. There was a pause. Then, I'd very much like to see that. An hour later, I was sitting across from Claire in a quiet cafe. The same folder sat between us, the same evidence. But this time, it wasn't just about me. I walked her through everything. The forged documents, the real medical records, the surveillance photos, the text messages, the plan, the 30 days, the extortion attempt, and finally, the video. Logan's voice.
Clear.
Cold. Yes, I faked having cancer. Claire didn't interrupt, didn't question. She just watched. Page after page, detail after detail, until finally, she leaned back, eyes wide in a way that told me everything I needed to know. This is a lot bigger than what he told us, she said. I let out a breath. He wouldn't tell you the truth, I replied. No, she said softly. He definitely wouldn't. She tapped the folder lightly. Can I use all of this? I didn't hesitate. Use everything, because I understood something now. People like Logan don't stop when you walk away. They stop when they're exposed. The article dropped the next morning, and it didn't just land. It detonated. Local woman's ex-boyfriend fakes terminal cancer in elaborate property scam. Every detail was there. The forged medical records, the surveillance photos of Logan living a perfectly normal life, the messages between him and Ashley, the plan to establish residency, the attempted extortion, and his recorded confession. Within hours, the story spread. Local outlets picked it up first, then national, then social media. By noon, his face was everywhere. The same man who had stood in my kitchen pretending to be dying was now staring out from headlines labeled fraud, scam, manipulation. My phone exploded, but this time it wasn't with confusion. It was with support. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years.
Colleagues. Strangers.
People who had seen the story and understood exactly what it meant, what he had tried to do, and how close he had come. That same afternoon, everything escalated. Ashley Matthews was arrested at her office. Charges: conspiracy, fraud, forgery. Her real estate license suspended immediately. Her firm cut ties within hours. News footage showed her being walked out in handcuffs. That's when Logan called. Different number, different tone. You destroyed me, he shouted the second I answered. I held the phone away from my ear slightly. My face is everywhere. People are calling me a monster. I lost my job. My landlord is kicking me out. You did that to yourself, I said. I made a mistake, he snapped. No, I replied evenly. You committed a crime.
Silence.
Then his voice cracked. Please, he said, call them. Tell them it's not true. Tell them you exaggerated. I didn't exaggerate anything. I have nothing now, he said. No job. No place to go. You had a plan, I reminded him. A detailed one. That's not the same. You faked terminal cancer, I said, cutting him off. You forged medical documents. You tried to steal my house. His breathing turned uneven. I was desperate, he said. No, I replied quietly. You were calculated. There's a difference. A very important one. Please, Natalie, he said, softer now. I'm begging you. And for a split second, there it was again. That old reflex. That instinct to soften.
To comfort. To fix.
But this time, I recognized it for what it was.
Conditioning.
Not compassion. You should have thought about that, I said, before you decided to fake dying. Then I hung up and blocked the number. He didn't stop. Emails, messages from new accounts. Then Saturday morning, he showed up. The cameras caught everything. Him walking up to the door, knocking, then pounding, then shouting, Natalie, please, I'm sorry. I don't have anywhere to go. I watched it from my phone, didn't open the door, didn't speak. I called the police. They arrived in 6 minutes. Issued a trespassing warning, told him clearly, if he came back, he'd be arrested. He left screaming, calling me heartless, promising people would find out who I really was. But it didn't matter anymore, because now, everyone already knew who he was. The charges were filed that Monday. Forgery.
Fraud. Conspiracy.
All of it. Ashley got hit harder because of her professional involvement. Logan tried to deny everything, claimed it was a misunderstanding, that the documents were real, that the messages were taken out of context, that I had fabricated the story until the video played, his voice, his confession.
Clear. Final.
The case moved quickly after that. 3 months later, trial. I testified for 2 days. Every detail, every piece of evidence, every moment I had second-guessed myself. His lawyer tried to paint him as desperate, broken. A man who made bad decisions under emotional strain, but the prosecution showed everything else. The planning, the timing, the coordination, the weight loss, the rehearsed vulnerability. This wasn't panic. This was strategy. The jury deliberated for 4 hours.
Guilty.
On all counts. Sentencing came weeks later. The courtroom was silent when the judge spoke. "This is one of the most calculated fraud cases I have seen," he said. Faking a terminal illness to exploit another person's compassion shows a complete absence of moral integrity. Logan stood there, head down. No performance left. No audience to convince. Just consequences. 3 years. Ashley got 5. The story stayed in the news for weeks. Online, social media, people dissecting it, reacting to it. Some said I was too harsh, that I should have just removed him quietly, handled it privately. But most understood. Because if I hadn't exposed him, he would have done it again, to someone else. 6 months later, I sold the house. Too many memories, too many echoes. I bought a condo downtown, smaller, quieter. Mine, completely mine. And slowly, I started over. His name disappeared from my life, except for one last thing. A letter. 8 pages. Handwritten. Apologies.
Regret.
Claims of therapy. Promises of change. I read it once, then shredded it. Because some apologies don't come from growth. They come from consequences, and those are not the same thing. People ask me sometimes if I regret what I did, if I feel guilty, if I wish I had handled it differently. No, not even a little. Because Logan didn't just lie. He studied me, used my past, used my empathy, used the one thing decent people are taught never to question. Someone saying they're dying, and he turned it into a weapon. That's not a mistake. That's a choice.
Repeated.
Planned. Executed. Now, I sleep peacefully. No shadows in the hallway. No performances behind closed doors. Just silence, the real kind. And if there's one thing I would tell anyone listening to this, it's this. If something feels wrong, verify it, even if it makes you uncomfortable, even if it makes you feel cruel. Because the truth doesn't punish you for checking. But lies, they depend on you not to.